Hello and welcome. I'm Jaime Ocon with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. In case you missed it, the Singapore Airshow is Asia's largest aviation and defense expo and one of the biggest opportunities for militaries around the world to show off the latest in defense technology. That's also true for Taiwan. This year, more Taiwanese companies than ever before are taking part in the expo, but many are still struggling for international visibility. Air shows like this one in Singapore are big business. Companies from more than 50 countries, including the US, Japan, and China, are all showing off their latest advancements in aviation and defense technology. But smaller countries like Taiwan are also trying to make their presence felt and get a chance to work with some of the biggest names in the defense industry. Among the Taiwanese firms here is AIDC, and it's looking for international partners.
我这次带的2个协会，还有我们公司人来新加坡参加这个航展，因为新加坡是个非常高度贸易自由化的一个国家，来这边我们可以见到很多 Tier 1的大厂。
AIDC is one of Taiwan's most prominent defense manufacturers. It works together with the US to upgrade Taiwan's fleet of more than 130 F-16 fighter jets. But not all Taiwanese companies are this successful internationally. Many companies find it difficult to form partnerships abroad. International companies are often wary of engaging with Taiwan, fearful it might impact their ability to do business with China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory and often discourages companies from working with Taipei.
Unfortunately, it is difficult because of China's effort to isolate Taiwan. Although Taiwan's industrial capability is very good and they have a very good workforce, so a well-educated, hard-working workforce. If you look at AIDC, how well it is doing with the upgrade of the F-16s, for example.
But Taiwanese companies are hoping the Singapore Airshow will be a chance to do business with a greater variety of customers. This area is the Taiwan section of the expo. Now, while it's not as big as other countries, it's still setting records of its own, with its biggest ever turnout here at the Singapore Airshow. 8 companies from Taiwan are part of this year's delegation, and officials say the turnout is a promising sign of the increasing attention Taiwan is getting internationally, especially in emerging fields like drone technology.
So this will be a very important platform for Taiwan company to show their product, their service, not only materials, but also the integrated system, such as drone. Anti-drone system will be very important in current defense system.
One Taiwanese company here, Tron Future, makes mobile radars and anti-drone systems. Tron's CEO says that even gaining international visibility can be a challenge.
So the typical way is defense is always a very sensitive topic in any region, especially in today's situation. Take this just Singapore Airshow, for example. We are not allowed to show too obvious any Taiwan logo directly. So we have to deal with this problem carefully.
The Singapore Airshow is held every 2 years, and events like this are a rare chance for Taiwanese companies to easily meet and connect with the rest of the world, regardless of the obstacles. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon in Singapore for TaiwanPlus. Dozens of aircraft took to the skies for the Singapore Airshow for aerobatics. Fighter jets, civilian airliners, and helicopters from 50 different countries were on display, with many looking to show off their latest in aviation tech. That included for the first time China, which debuted a brand new kind of civilian jetliner. This is the C919. It's China's first domestically made narrow-body passenger jet. This type of aircraft is used to transport millions of people around the world every day. Planes from European and American manufacturers Airbus and Boeing make up more than 90% of China's passenger fleet, but this new aircraft, manufacturer Comac, is hoping to change that. Here at the Singapore Airshow, the C919 is flying for the first time outside of China. Singaporean officials say they welcome the latest country to take part in the show.
So it's the first time we will be having exhibitors from China, and this basically is positive, encouraging early signs of seeing Chinese companies from the aerospace industry participating in the economic activities here in Singapore.
On the sidelines of the event, China's Tibet Airlines signed an order of 40 C919 jets, but the aircraft has yet to get an order from overseas. The first C919 was delivered in 2022 to China Eastern, but today only 4 are in service, and the aircraft is still seeking approval from aviation safety agencies outside of China. But that's just one issue facing the aircraft. While the C919 is China's first domestically developed airliner, many of the systems aboard the aircraft are not made in China, and that's led some to question whether China has all the technology needed to truly make an 100% made in China jet. In fact, a majority of the components used, including the engines, parts of the tail and landing gear, as well as the flight control systems, are all made overseas. That means that any disruption to its supply chain due to political or economic events could make building the plane almost impossible. COMAC declined any media interviews at the Singapore Airshow. In many ways, now is an ideal time for COMAC to enter the market. American giant Boeing has struggled in recent years with safety problems plaguing one of its best-selling jets, the 737 MAX. But the C919's path to commercial success is far from guaranteed.
Industrial partners should be aware that when you transfer something to China to co-produce, you lose control of that technology. And I think that's the situation with the CFM LEAP engine. But without those kind of certification, and right now it doesn't have enough hour to really allow the Western side to accept certification of that aircraft for safety reason. But I don't see how they can become a true competitor of the Airbus and Boeing.
With Airbus and Boeing long dominating the aviation industry, COMAC is hoping the C919 can be a viable alternative for international airlines. The Chinese company says it'll expand production in the next few years, but it'll have to overcome stiff competition and geopolitical headwinds if it wants to get off the ground. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon in Singapore for TaiwanPlus. And this year's Singapore Airshow wasn't just about civilian aviation. The latest military tech, including dozens of fighter jets, were also on display. But while manned aircraft like this American-made F-15 are still the main attractions, militaries are increasingly interested in the unmanned systems on display. Fighter jets like these have been some of the most sought-after pieces of military hardware for decades. They're fast, can carry a variety of weapons, and are essential in protecting ground forces. But they're expensive to operate and are only as good as the pilots that fly them. That's why many attendees at the Singapore Airshow are interested in the wide variety of unmanned aircraft or drones on display.
所以其实今天我们可以看到，战斗机贵，但训练一个飞行员会更贵。可是如果今天是无人机，我是训练的是一个无人机飞行员的操作手的话，这架无人机遭到攻击，可是人是没事。
Militaries around the world are investing more in unmanned systems to carry out missions that would be too expensive to use fighter jets. And that's important for a country like Taiwan, which is threatened with invasion by neighboring China and has a limited military budget. Taiwan has already invested billions of US dollars into F-16 fighter jets like these. They're often used to warn off Chinese warplanes flying close to the country's borders. But now, Taiwan is looking to invest in unmanned systems that can help or even replace these fighter jets. In May of 2023, Taiwan purchased 4 MQ-9B Sea Guardian drones from General Atomics, which should be delivered by 2025. These drones are most often used for maritime surveillance and can stay in the sky for more than 18 hours, providing crucial intelligence from above. General Atomics says these systems could help Taiwan reduce the burden placed on its fleet of F-16s and their pilots.
So what that means to Taiwan is now I can retain the service life of my manned aircraft by employing unmanned aircraft to go out and do some of the long endurance, dull, boring missions that typically a manned platform may go do and make a much more efficient operation.
But these types of drones are not just limited to military use. Unmanned systems can gather information without risking the lives of pilots. It's a capability many countries want to use in humanitarian missions.
You look at worldwide and you look at what's going on from illegal fishing to recently the earthquake in Japan. We are providing overflight services in support of first responders. So there's a number of missions, as military as well as civil, that these platforms can go out and provide, but it's really about providing the most affordable solution.
While fighter jets are a long way from being obsolete, countries like Taiwan think a mix of manned and unmanned systems is the best way forward for defense strategy. That means keeping key personnel out of danger, but still in the fight. Chris Ma and Jaime Ocon in Singapore for TaiwanPlus. As jet planes decorated Singapore's skyline for the 5-day expo, the country's government made a pledge towards sustainable fuel options, especially as air travel returns to pre-pandemic levels. But as Rosie Greninger reports, experts are questioning the validity of the scheme.
Planes perform aerobics for enthusiastic crowds at Singapore's biennial Airshow. The planes may look the same, but this year's exhibition is a little different, with organisers claiming the show is turning green, featuring planes running partly on sustainable fuel.
Sustainability, sustainability, and sustainability. So I think this is what we have seen from 18 to 24, right? The focus and the interest on sustainability has grown.
The Airshow's switch-up comes just days after Singapore announced a pivot to non-petroleum-based renewable fuel options by 2026, requiring all flights departing from the country to use at least 1% sustainable aviation fuel, made synthetically or from organic materials. It's a shift that is crucial for the carbon-reliant aviation sector to reach its goals of net zero carbon emissions by 2050, and major aviation companies taking part in the Airshow say they're on board.
We've been, very active in this space for some time. It's, in a sense, it feels like business as usual for us because we're procuring more than 20% of our fuel for Boeing itself as sustainable aviation fuel.
But experts are questioning the effectiveness of the scheme. With sustainable fuel accounting for just 2% of the jet fuel market, they say there's not enough to satisfy policy or future demand. Sustainable aviation fuel is an expensive resource, costing 5 times as much as conventional fuel. That's a cost ticket holders will foot the bill for through a levy, according to Singapore's Transport Minister. There are also concerns so-called sustainable fuel is not made entirely from environmentally friendly materials, including palm oil, whose cultivation causes mass deforestation to clear way for plantations.
There's so much green coating around a hugely carbon-intensive industry. If you look at I'm sort of obsessed writing about greenwashing at the moment, and globally, after oil and gas firms, it's aviation firms that are called out for greenwashing more than any other type of sector, for 2 reasons. One is that they keep banging on about sustainable aviation fuel as a solution to fly green without being specific about the fuel that they're using.
The move to using a more sustainable form of fuel shows the aviation industry recognises its responsibility to reduce emissions. But in an accelerating climate crisis, carbon-intensive air shows like these could become a thing of the past if the industry is pressured to take more steps to curb their environmental impact. Dolphin Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching. In case you missed it, you can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with even more shots of the Singapore Airshow. I'm Jaime Ocon. Take care and see you next time.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.